6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock of the Economic Development Committee. I'll read the thing here. This meeting is being recorded by the Economic Development Committee. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Okay. I'm going to skip the stuff about Mass General Law and just say that if anybody doesn't have permission to talk and to keep talking, I'm going to cut them off. Okay, roll call. I'm here. Councillor Bottomley told us he couldn't make it. Councillor Gilmore?
Here.
Councillor Healy?
Here.
And Councillor Mayo?
Here.
Great. Approval of minutes. Do you want to do these all at once or do you want to do it separately because some of you weren't here for some of them?
Makes sense to do it separately.
Okay. Approval of minutes for April 11th. Does anybody have any changes? Let me look at who was here and who wasn't. Absent was Gilmore and Healy. We almost don't have enough people to vote on that. I guess we have to skip that because we can't get a majority of the committee. And then the minutes for May 9th, absent was Bottomley, so we can do that. Any problems with the May 9th minutes? Do I have a motion to accept them?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Okay, so that's done, and we'll have to come back to the other minutes and when we have enough people. I'm not quite sure how to put it, but without objection, I would like to change the agenda and move the first item to last. Then we can get through the quick ones and give ourselves plenty of time to talk about the zoning change. Any problem with that? Any objection?
Nope.
Okay, good. So let's do that. So the first item on the agenda, if I can find it. Oh, goodness.
Not mine.
You have an agenda that actually has the agenda? Okay. So that would put us up to the request for the city of Greenfield to petition the state legislature to create an all alcohol liquor license for Tuckman Glasses LLC, DBA Greenfield Garden Cinema, submitted by the Board of Licensed Commissioners. And I believe you are here, Danny, to talk about that?
I am.
You want to explain to us what
Sure.
it's about?
I can't see me. Does it matter?
You're in the room.
I am in the room, but usually there's a way to do, here, hold on, camera control, auto framing. Oh, here we are. Hi.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I brought with me the information from the Board of Licensed Commissioners. So in my role, I also oversee the licensing clerk. And so it made more sense for me to come to the meeting. The clerk doesn't usually attend these. This is a petition to the state legislature for an all alcohol liquor license for the garden. They currently have a beer and wine license. How it works is in Massachusetts is, just so you know why we have to do it this way. There's a quota system for the number of liquor licenses that each community gets based on population. And at one point and they do it one per 1,000 with a minimum. And then when you jump into the next 1,000, you get that one. So if you have 17,500 people, you get 18. If you have 18,000 and change, you get 19, so forth. So at some point, our allotment was up to 19. So we must have squeaked over that 18,000 population mark at one point. We currently have 22 issued, and the ones that are over are by legislative, like this, a legislative license. And so the only way for the garden to get this license is in this way. We have a waiting list at present for additional licenses. And just by example, we had somebody get a liquor license off of the waiting list sometime in the last couple of years, and that person was on the waiting list for 10 years. Wow. So, you know, this is an economic development because we consider this an economic development issue. They've been hosting this beer and wine license at the garden for some time now with no problems. the Board of License Commissioner opened up a public hearing, and there were no public comments other than those from the business owner that were all positive. There were some questions back and forth, and then the board voted unanimously to approve it to go forward.
So this puts them on the waiting list?
It does not. It does, it counteracts the other opportunity would be to either buy somebody else's license or get on the liquor license waiting list. And like I said, the waiting list would be
This would
10 years.
jump the list.
It jumps the list. It's still a fairly slow process because, it still has to go to the legislature. And as we know, it takes a little while. So.
Speaking of jumping ahead, we probably should have read the motion first.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody have it in front of them to read it?
I can try and grab it.
It's on page 17. I'll be
All
happy
right,
to do it.
I've got it. I
Okay,
just have to scroll. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city of Greenfield hereby petitions the legislature of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to pass special legislation as follows. An act authorizing the city of Greenfield to grant an additional license for the sale of all alcoholic beverages to be drink on the premises. Notwithstanding section 17 of chapter 138 of the general laws or any other general or special lays to the contrary I think there are a few typos. Laws to the contrary. The licensing authority of the city of Greenfield may grant an additional license for the sale of all liquor beverages to be drunk on the premises under section 12 of said chapter 138 to Tuckerman's Glasses LLC DBA Greenfield Garden Cinema located at 361 Main Street. The license shall be non-transferable in terms of location. The action shall take effect upon its passage.
okay. I'm going to make two,
Second,
let's have a second.
second.
Okay.
Danielle,
Two friendly changes, make drink drunk the first time and make lays laws, as you suggested,
Typo, yeah.
typos. Okay, let's discuss. Any thoughts?
Question.
Yeah.
So the folks that are on a waiting list, I mean, they can pursue this also, couldn't they?
Correct. They could at any point.
Okay, so either they don't know that they can, or they just are willing to wait for the time. Do you have a sense of?
Yeah, looking at the waiting list, my belief is that they all know about the legislative license process, but don't want to do that for various reasons. It's time consuming, a lot of paperwork.
Right up Isaac Mass's alley.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac is a former city councilor. He's a former Board of License Commissioner. He's an attorney. He knows the process. Other people on here are business owners and business people. They know the process as well. So one of the people on the waiting list has a seasonal license, so they're probably cool right now. At least one of the people on the waiting list already has another license at a different location. So, there's a lot of reasons. It's not a very long list, but like I said, last time it took nearly 10 years to get the person off the wait list. And we have offered them from the wait list in the past, which is what happened with the last one, is that we offered it to the first person on the list and they were unable to utilize it at that time. So that's the next person. So it's not a very efficient way of it happening.
You want to just tell us who's on the list?
Sure. Mark Zacchio, Jordy Harold, Safar Rana Megar, which is Namaste. The garden is on the wait list down lower, and then Denny's Pantry, which has a seasonal. And actually, I believe Namaste has a seasonal right now as well. Yeah, so those are just the pouring all alcohol licenses. And currently Tuckerman's Glasses LLC has a beer and wine.
Yeah.
One of the things that and they're not here, but one of the things that the owner said at the meeting was what he envisions is a couple of things he did this kind of assuage any concerns, is that they have priced their alcohol at the garden fairly high because they're not interested in people, pounding, over serving themselves. And it's just an additional add-on to the theater. They're looking to do things like theme nights. So if you have a movie, If you have a 007 movie, you could have a martini, taken not stirred, things like that, which is what they do at other other theaters that have liquor licenses. So that was what they're envisioning. It's just an add-on to the situation there.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, we love the garden cinema and we hope it succeeds. Go ahead, Doug.
I really don't have a problem, as Danny said, that, this is the, I'm not saying verbatim, but other theaters are doing this, and I've seen it. I froze. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, it's just my opinion that other theaters are doing it. I've seen it, and they don't seem to be having a problem with it. And I don't have a problem with the garden doing it.
Yep.
Any other comments?
I have one other question. This is more about the process. So once we send this up, are they just gonna, is this something that they typically rubber stamp, or is there a likelihood that they would say no?
I don't have any data to support this, but in my memory, I don't remember them saying, it doesn't happen that often. I don't remember the legislature saying no to these. So I don't know. It probably is one of those things where, home rule wise, they say the community has said so. 2 different boards voted yes. The public didn't oppose, so they probably will say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that the board passed it unanimously without objection, I was tempted to take it straight to full council.
Oh, yeah, and I don't have objections. I'm just curious about how the process goes.
Yeah.
I have one curious question. Does this increase the number of pot retail facilities that the town can have? No, it's separate.
It doesn't have anything to do with it, yeah.
Well, it does have to do with how many liquors.
Liquor licenses only, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you want to take a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, no abstentions. Okay, great, done. Thank you very much. We'll pass it on with a positive forward recommendation. Okay, second thing on the agenda is ending the TIF for Ford and Toyota of Greenfield. I'll read this one. The city, it's order number FY 23-160, the city council upon recommendation of Mayor Weider Gardner, in order to terminate tax increment financing TIF agreement for 1 Main Street, Greenfield, Mass. Move that it be ordered to terminate the tax increment financing TIF agreement approved by the EACC as of September 23rd, 2015. The quote TIF agreement between the city of Greenfield, the city, and Jim Bob Realty LLC, the owner of Ford and of Greenfield and Toyota of Greenfield, located at 1 Main Street, Greenfield, Mass. Quote, the project, majority vote required. We have the letters, we have the letter from the mayor, we have the letter from Jim Bob Realty, we have the original agreement and the annual report. Getting out of TIF, fine with us, right? That we get to collect the full taxes and we don't have to give them a break. I think I was at a TIF meeting that explained this, maybe MJ. Somehow they got their share, they got their TIF, and they're willing to give up anymore. So, any questions, any objections? Go ahead, Derek.
No, I don't have any questions.
Derek has his hand up. Yeah.
No, I'm just wondering, I read the TIF agreement, I see the letter, but what kind of stemmed this whole situation? Were they not meeting their employment requirements that were probably part of the TIF agreement, or they just decided they didn't need the tax break? Like, what actually stemmed the root cause for this?
I think they met their employment. Go ahead, MJ, you've got the facts.
They during COVID, the EACC sort of suspended or granted forbearance to, I'm sorry, I'm getting this one confused with the other one. No, what happened with this one is it was a fairly confusing TIF to implement because it was implemented only on the second phase of investment at the property. And what we realized is if we were, as Randy was coming on board and we were starting to review the TIFs, is that the town had miscalculated the original TIF and had granted them more of a TIF in the prior years than they were due. And so the resolution was decided is they would just terminate the TIF early and we would call it a day.
Perfect. Thank you.
There was a technical error on our end in terms of calculating the taxes that were due on those properties. So they essentially were able to gain the benefit from their TIF in advance, so they don't need it any, well, not that they don't need, but they're willing to just say we're done rather than trying to go and sort the future out.
That's how I remember you explaining it the last time.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Did we get a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Second,
Thank you, Sheila. All right, let's take a vote. All in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Raise your
Aye.
hand. Great, that passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, now we're going to get to the fun part. The rezoning of the French King Highway. If you want to stay for this, you're welcome to. I have a few opening remarks. I'll try to keep it short. Some people in town are wondering what the city council is up to. We've just taken big chunks of money out of things they hold dear, like health insurance and debt service, and given the money to something they clearly hold even dearer, the schools, the teachers, the kids. The right thing to do, and despite my reservations, I voted for it. We're now given an opportunity that rarely comes our way, a chance to bring money into the city, to replenish the coffers, as it were. What we have before us now is a new version of the original proposal, a compromise that keeps housing by right in the piece of the property closest to town, but retains the planning board's original idea of creating a new park-like zone that would meet the needs of the growing industrial base, which we're short of industrial land. We also have in hand the research that shows that from the planning boards that shows that 87% of Greenfield's land allows housing by right. We've got the land. What we're in need of are the economic conditions that attract developers. I'm going to argue that expanding the industrial zone might do just that. We have estimates that as many as 200 new high-paying jobs could be created from just one of the properties, the land where Walmart won the right finally to build a store, but in the end decided not to. Hundreds of new jobs, of course, could attract hundreds of new tax-paying families to Greenfield with money to spend downtown and kids to help replenish our schools, repopulate our schools. The new version comes before this committee. We have to make a recommendation to the full council. The council has had two swings at the bat at the earlier version. The first vote was 6 votes shy of a 2/3 majority. The second vote was 2 votes shy. As it happens, 3 of the no votes are on this committee. So the deliberation that we do today is critical. We have it in our hands to put this over the top. So that's my say. Let's get the conversation started. Anybody want to talk? Derek, thank you.
So I think everybody knows how I feel about this whole proposal. I know it's scaled back. I still think the benefits of doing this in a scaled back version outweigh the consequences. Industrial land in Franklin County is rare to find. There's plenty of companies that want to come to Franklin County. I was talking to a client the other day, and they said, the thing I love about Franklin County is people in Franklin County know how to work, right? We're farmers, we're agriculture, and we have a great target market for employees, right? So a company wants to come to an area like this to build their business because they have hardworking employees that are willing to commit their time to the company, right? And you've seen other companies go to Deerfield. I could talk about all those things, and they're going to keep doing it. You saw that Valley Steel Stamp is purchasing a facility down in Connecticut now. It's a shame. It really is that this couldn't have happened quicker. All I see is the opportunity to help our schools and fund other departments in the city adequately, so we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. you know, we shouldn't have to do that. If this would have passed the first time around, we wouldn't have been in the situation that we were at the last council meeting, which, you know, is tough, especially I have 4 kids in the school system, right? It's tough. It was hard. I voted in favor of it. Did I like where we're taking the money from? Absolutely not. I think this here is a way to systematically replace that revenue and hopefully be able to fund our schools even greater down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Doug, you were arguing that the land would be better used for housing. Do you still feel that way? Just
You talking to me?
Yeah,
start again if you could. You had said in an earlier conversation that you thought the land was better used for housing
Yes.
than industry.
I am still concerned about that, and I even asked the mayor point blank if she had any plans in the future to use that for low-cost housing, and she said absolutely not. So I was concerned about that. You have the opportunity to do it, and there's a great need for it. And she said, and she openly said no.
You talking about the mayor?
Yeah.
What?
You're referring to what the mayor said when you asked her that?
Yes.
yeah, that's correct. So the city doesn't build housing, and the city was approached by and knows of several industrial businesses that want to expand on that land. So, you know, we do care about housing. There's different ways to go about that. We're starting conversations for other places, but there's no one has approached the city to build housing on that location. And somebody has approached to build industrial on that property. So it's not that the mayor is unwilling to build housing. The city does not build housing and never has. We do partner with people who develop housing, and we're doing that right now with Wilson's on a small scale.
Right. I guess I would say, Doug, that sort of echo what was just said, that we have a developer, we have developers eager to develop the land as industry. Nobody has come forward saying they want to develop that land for housing.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a bird in the hand and a bird in the bush. We got a bird in the hand. We may not love this particular bird because he makes pistol parts, but as people keep saying, that's Valley Steel Stamp is a red herring. They got the ball rolling, but we don't zone for a particular company. We zone for everybody. And Valley Steel Stamp would be competing with any other company that wanted to develop that land, and they may or may not get it. Depends on factors beyond our control. I also have to add that what gets done in a factory in Greenfield is not the city council's purview. You know, we zone, we approve, we disapprove. We don't say, we don't want you here because you provide abortions. We don't say, we don't want you here because you hold meetings for political groups that we don't like. That's not the purpose of the city council. At least I don't think so. Sheila, you're a special case because you have a history in the council with the whole library versus lifting the overlay in the French King Highway. And you've expressed your feeling like you have a moral obligation to vote no. Do you still feel that way?
No, actually, I had 2 of my former colleagues who were serving before you approach me with the prior agreement, and they were really upset. They felt like they had made this deal. We shook on it, you know, proverbially speaking, and they felt some betrayal. But neither of them none of them have come to me about this particular one. I do have a question about the manufacturing jobs, though, because the big talking point is like, we're going to bring in these high wage jobs, but I've never heard of a high wage manufacturing job. I think they pay like 15 to 18 an hour.
Not a
That's
Valley
not
Steel
enough.
Stamp.
What is Valley Steel Stamp, do you know?
Well, I mean, I think what you're referring to, Sheila, is the program that they had in cooperation with GCC. And so they had a program with them for people starting, starting early in entry-level training program with GCC. And I don't know the details, but I do remember it was targeted towards low-income people who are trying to pursue a better paying career. And there were income requirements. And then, yeah, the pay during that training time was somewhere in the range of the teens. I don't have it in front of me, but generally speaking, their jobs are pretty high paying there. And I think we need to think about this more, not just the jobs, because the jobs there, I know a few people who work at Valley Steel Stamp and they have good jobs. They've been there a while. They make a decent amount of money raising children, own houses, good benefits. But the other part of that is, in addition to that, I really think what Phil said about the tax base is huge. If we're ever going to get to a point in this city where we're not fighting with one another over departments being funded, because ideally, I think we all want the same thing, which is we don't want to pit funding our schools and dealing with our children's education against other goals in terms of paying for other city services. And the only way we all know to do that is to increase the tax base. I heard a lot of talk about increasing the tax base all spring. We're going to be hearing about it all summer in certain ways. This is literally in front of you a way to increase the tax base. So frankly, these are good jobs, but even if they were paying $18 an hour, that huge multi-million-dollar facility would bring in a lot of taxes, which is good.
Yeah, I was under the impression that they were making like 50, 60.
They are. So it's that program, I was a little surprised at how low that program started, but that was during the training, right, MJ? That was like during their first year or two or something. The program with GCC.
What else? MJ, do you actually have the figures, MJ, of what they pay, for example, Valley Steel Stamp?
MJ, you're muted.
You're muted now. And frozen. Muted and frozen, a double whammy.
Colorado.
Now we can see you. We can't.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
We were asking, do you know how much they pay at Valley Steel Stamp once you get over the training?
Oh, man.
All right, we're going to give you a pass, MJ. The communication is hard. Derek, did you have some information?
He might.
Not about Valley Steel Stamp, but I do know similar industry in Deerfield had an ad in their paper for 24 to 26 bucks an hour, starting with a $2,000 signing bonus, right? So we're talking about mid 20s to start at these businesses. That seems pretty reasonable.
All right, MJ now has her hand raised.
Right.
She thinks she's good.
Okay, you good, MJ? Can you talk?
I can talk. Can you hear me?
Now we hear you briefly.
You were frozen before.
Yeah, I think it's too hard. You're frozen or you're muted. So let's just, we're okay. We can move on.
Damn.
Anyway, we're comparing this to jobs at McDonald's.
It's not the same, yes.
Yeah. Any other concerns, questions? Do we want to take this to a vote?
Well, I have a question real quick about the properties that are already there, that are already zoned differently. Are those just gonna get grandfathered in? Cause we're not gonna just go in there with a bulldozer and knock over, everything on the street, right?
No, everything is grandfathered in. There's a place that sells little containers at the end. That's commercial, that stays there. There are a few houses. Not clear which of them are still occupied, but they're grandfathered in. And in fact, their property values would go through the roof should this go through. Suddenly they've got undeveloped land that suddenly becomes available. Here's MJ. She sent a message, which we're not supposed to do.
I think read it out loud. It's all right.
I think we're okay. Yeah, Steve Capshaw gave us the information. We've forgotten it. That's our bad. Yeah, everything gets grandfathered, Sheila. Nobody gets bulldozed. A lot of trees would have to come down, I think, for one of the properties. One of the properties is basically scraped down to bedrock. The other has trees. And actually, I think there may be some water on it too.
Yeah.
All that would have to be done correctly. There are rules about developing around wetlands and so forth. And left unresolved is what to do with what I call the head of the fish, which was promised to the Norumbega project. Hasn't been given to them yet. The last we heard from the planning director was that there have been conversations now between the lawyers representing the owner and the Norumbega project. I don't know where they've gone. Do you have any more information?
I don't have any more information on
The
that.
mayor's office had nothing on it, but the planning board had a little bit. There was some kind of conversation going on. That's no promise to the Norumbega, but it's forward motion, I guess.
I think everybody's in favor of that moving forward in some iteration. You mean the head of the fish, like literally?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how you called it that.
Yeah.
Does look like a fish.
Yes.
So am I remembering correctly that that head of the fish, didn't they say that that wasn't really developable land anyways?
It's not, yeah.
It's
Okay,
not, but I think the Native Americans would like to have it.
Yeah.
They don't want to be, they don't want to depend on environmental rules that might be over, anyway, for whatever
no, I
reason.
understand. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I have my facts straight.
Okay. And Doug, you had your hand up. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. You said that some trees would have to come down. What's the condition of the trees? And are they dead trees? Are they growing trees? Or if the trees have to come down, is there a plan to replant in some other area?
Yeah, so usually when there's development and it goes through the process with either the Conservation Commission, Planning Board, ZBA, when there's actually a proposal, at that point, Greenfield has some requirements for replacement of trees when they come down. So that's something that we can't know yet, but I think Greenfield, we're a tree city. We do a good job with that. We have pretty good regulations in terms of that. So I would say, as long as, we pay attention to those requirements and advocate for it, that's something that could probably happen. I believe that, anybody who's envisioning some sort of campus with some industrial property there, there'll be quite a bit cleared, but they usually like to kind of, usually the requirement is, and the businesses like to have it kind of look more pleasant with the tree lines going around as you drive in and all that stuff. So you're not staring at like a big square box when you're driving down Route 2.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
Anything else? What else? Shall we have a vote on this? Okay. All in favor of rezoning in the new compromise, raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. I thank you very much. Okay. Let's see where we go now.
That is a nice example of taking feedback and moving with it and resubmitting. So thank you, guys. Thank you to the planning board too.
Let's see, you gave me the minutes. I think that covers our agenda. Do we have any new business? Do we have any old business? The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, July 11th, 2023, 6 p.m. at the City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, Zoom hybrid. I'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.